Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalid. But today is the 23rd of November 2023, and these are the stories that we will be highlighting during the course of the show. We'll begin, as we always do, with the latest as far as Palestine is concerned. Today is the 48th day of the conflict, of the war, of the genocide that continues in Palestine as we speak. Whereas the truce has been agreed upon by both the sides, that is by Israel and Palestine and Hamas, in fact, and it has been mediated by Qatar. The fact is that the truce has yet to be implemented in letter and spirit. Qatar says it is going to be implemented very soon. When is that very soon? That, of course, we'll be highlighting you as and when that period begins. But of course, it's a 4-day truce, and we should remember that. A lot of diplomatic developments are also occurring on the sidelines. The Foreign Minister of Spain, as well as the Foreign Minister of Belgium, are going to visit Israel and Palestine today, in which they are going to highlight this whole conflict and try to find a solution to this all. The ministerial committee assigned by the Joint Arab Islamic Commit also held an official meeting with the British foreign minister, and of course we all know the different countries that are part of it, including the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, including the OIC and Egypt, and of course this concerns the mediation efforts that need to be put in place. A lot of efforts are also there to extend the time period of the truce, but whether that will happen or not is another question altogether, because of the statements that have also been emanating from the Israeli side. We all know that in the war cabinet of Israel, 3 of the members did not want this deal to go through. And one of the person is Ben-Gvir. We mentioned him yesterday and all the atrocity that he is, also involved with. We will also talk about Pakistan's stance on it and the Foreign Office spokesperson's comments as far as a durable solution to the Palestinian issue is concerned. This is going to be our first story. I was a bit long because there are so many things to discuss. The second story concerns the US attempt to foil the murder attempt on a Sikh leader. Now, they have thwarted a conspiracy to assassinate a Sikh leader on American soil. Brings to mind what happened in Canada just a few months back. The target of this plot in the US, because we all know that, who the target in Canada was, and he was assassinated, was an American and Canadian citizen, Gurpatwant Singh Pannun, who is the General Counsel for Sikhs for Justice, which is a US-based group that is part of a movement pushing for independent Sikh state. Now, Joe Biden has also raised the matter in discussions with India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi during a meeting at the G20 summit that happened in September. India has also confirmed that it has received the reports and it is investigating those. But let's see. I mean, as far as the Canadian assassination is also concerned, despite the tangible proof provided by Five Eyes and, of course, the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau highlighting it on more than one occasion, so did Melanie Joly, who is the Foreign Minister of Canada. The fact remains that still nothing much has been done as far as India is concerned. Maybe it will change this time. Next, we are going to talk about 2 soldiers who have been killed among 8 people in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. 8 people, including 2 security personnel, 6 civilians were martyred, while several others sustained injuries in a string of blasts that happened in 3 districts in North Waziristan, in South Waziristan, and in Bajor yesterday. We have been highlighting who's behind it, what are the motives, and how the government and our military authorities and our other organizations are also thwarting all these attacks, because if we get to know about 3 attacks, there are 300 behind it that are even nipped in the bud before they even happen. Finally, we are going to talk about the first IT export report. The Ministry of IT and Telecommunication is all set to launch Pakistan's first ever national IT and IT's export strategy, envisaging to attain an annual export target of $10 billion in the next 3 years from the current $2.6 billion. A lot of very important decisions are part of this document, and let's see how the government moves along with this. It has been launched. The minister says the strategy has been developed in collaboration with a top-tier international consulting firm for the Pakistan Software Export Board. He says this is our roadmap to increase Pakistan's IT exports by $10 billion per year. This is what he added. This is going to be our last story. Let's begin with our first, and that concerns Palestine, Israel, day 48 of this conflict, this war, this genocide that has been put on the Palestinian people, especially those who are in Gaza. The 2.2 to 2.3 million, now they are not even that number as we speak, because either a lot of them have been killed or a lot of them have also gone to other places, other regions of Gaza. the fact remains that this isn't stopping despite the truce that is apparently in the works, but the truce hasn't started yet, so Israel is continuing with its barbarities. We've been joined by Bakir. Younas is an Arab journalist, and he joins us in the studios. We'll be also joined by Dr. Khurram Abbas, Director ISSI online during the course of this very segment. Let's begin with you, Bakir. Thank you very much to have joined us. We are face to face after a very long time. I'd like to begin with the role of the Arab countries. There's a ministerial summit that has met with the Chinese foreign minister. It has met with the Russian foreign minister, and it has now met with the British foreign minister. How important do you feel the role of the Arab countries will be and is, as far as A, thwarting the attempts of Israel is concerned, B, making a general narrative as far as what has been happening in Palestine since the last few decades, and which moving forward towards a two-state solution?
I think the Arab ministerial meeting and their movement towards Russia, towards China, means that there is less hope with the Americans and with the European, you can say, states. It seems that there is no more acceptance with the, like the narrative the Arabs give to US, to the European, to France, to Italy, to stop the killing of Palestinians. It's not accepted anymore. So I think there's now everybody looking for a parallel strength to make this equation more equal. So that's why they have gone to Russia, that's why they have gone to China. And now I think the influence of Russia and China is very important in this time, because as we see, there is no acceptance from US and from the European country to the Arab narrative and the Palestinian narrative. They are actually totally neglecting us, totally looking at us as criminals. They are watching Palestinians being killed. They are watching the kids are being killed.
They do say, there are statements that come now and then, Bakir, by Anthony Blinken, by Joe Biden himself, who say that we do not need, this killings of the children need to stop. This killing of the civilians need to stop. But this killing isn't stopping.
At the same time, they are sending weapons to Israel. So actually, this is something we shouldn't accept. That's why that's pushed the Arab to go to Russia and China. And there's something more important actually. We are now asking for what? Are we asking for truce? Are we asking for stop firing? Or are we asking to stop this war? Our request should be stopping the occupation. Our request should be, to all the countries internationally, that this is an illegal occupation of Palestine, named as Israel. This occupation have to be removed. 1, 2, this army, the Israeli army, should be disarmed, because we have seen now the Israeli forces using these weapons in illegal way. They are not obeying the international law. They are not obeying Geneva Convention. They are not obeying the United Nations rules. So since they are not obeying any of these rules, they should be disarmed. This force, the Israeli force, have to be disarmed. They are not accepting any rules. They are not accepting any international laws in which the other countries are accepting and ruling. So this means this army have to be disarmed. Otherwise, this genocides, this kind of attacks will continue to come again. So why should we stay under their what you call it, merciless?
Because it is your land, it is the land of the Palestinians, and they are being denied to live peacefully as per their basic human rights in their own land, and they are being evicted from their lands on one pretext or the other. And you have to keep in mind, saying two-state solution, it is not something we should accept. It is something we might accept temporarily, but for permanent solution, no. Because this is Palestine at the end. It is an occupied, since before 1948, were there Israel? No. So it's an occupied land named as Israel. So at the end, this is an occupation have to be end. There should be an end for this occupation. Palestinians are fighting. They are, of course, paying a huge cost for this. This is cost them very high cost. This killing of kids, killing of people. It's the destruction of infrastructure of Gaza. But this is not the thing we are actually afraid from, because what we are looking for is the freedom of our country. So we know that we have to pay this cost, but internationally and especially among the Arab and the Muslim countries, people have to understand that this is our right, and they also have to come stand with us. Otherwise, this may happen anywhere else. I totally agree with you with that, and the need of the day is the collective push in order for the people of Palestine, the people of Gaza to have and to attain their basic human rights, their rights to live in the land that has been their own since decades. We've been joined by Dr. Khurram Abbas, Director ISSI online. Thank you very much, Dr. Khurram Abbas, to have joined us. Dr. Khurram Abbas, when you look at the way Gaza has been targeted by Israel since the 7th of October, and of course today is the 48th day. We continue to hear stories from the hospitals, latest being the director of the Al-Shifa hospital has now been arrested. What is the goal? I mean, I can understand that Israel, in its point of view, wants to stop Hamas, but is this the way to stop Hamas, to bombard hospitals, to kill innocent children, to kill innocent women, to deny basic human rights like food, water, electricity and fuel to the people of Gaza, and to bombard them day and night? What are they trying to achieve in your point of view?
Well, thank you so much for having me on the show. As you said, basically they have tried to cover up with the allegations that they want to stop Hamas. But at the same time, if you look at the last 40-50 days, and you find out that a series of war crimes have been committed by Israel. And these war crimes are against, like the Geneva Convention, like the international law, that have been seriously been tarnished just because of for some attack that was again was justified to some extent. But my point of view is that the innocent children have been brutally been targeted, and they are I think the prime target. If you look at if you compare Ukraine versus Gaza, in last almost 20 months of Ukraine's war with the Russia, almost 10,000 people have been killed. As compared to that, in last 40 or 50 days, you will find that there are more than almost 15,000 people of Palestinians, innocent Palestinians, have been killed. So basically, on the one side, I think Israel is trying to create a buffer zone, but at the same time, they are trying to do it by pushing people from north to south of Gaza, which is again, something.
But even in the south of Gaza, Dr. Saab, they are not free. They are not free to roam. They are always under the pressure of being bombarded from left, right,
and
or center.
of course, they are basically pushing them to south, and in fact, it will lead to another kind of humanitarian crisis, because you cannot accommodate a lot of people in a very consolidated.
I totally get you on that, and I'm going to go to my guests in the studios for that. Humanitarian crisis after humanitarian crisis. We were talking of the south of Gaza, and you were just adding to that. I'd like to have your point of view that it has just been bombarded, hasn't it? So there is no place that is safe for the Palestinians, for the people in Gaza. Even in West Bank, they are being bombarded and they are being killed. So where can the Palestinians roam freely? There's no place, is it?
Actually, this is what the Israelis want to do. They want to let us feel that we are hopeless. Nothing we can go. We know where we can go. Nothing we can do. Even the Al-Shifa, what do you call it, manager? What his name? He was been arrested. Nobody have
Abu Salmiya.
Abu Salmiya. Yeah. He was arrested. So they want to show that no one is safe. We can target anyone. There's no rules governing us. There's no rules which we will be governed by. That is the point I was saying, that yes, this army have shown this. So this army have now to be disarmed. The air force of Israeli have to be taken from them. It is not safe keeping an air force with them, not safe keeping these bombs, missile with them. And Americans have to stop this as well, because this is actually what pushing them to be. They have an open check from USA. They have open, take as much weapons as you want. And what they are using, they're not using against what you call Hamas or Al-Jihad. They are using it to kill everyone.
Bakir, is something that is really interesting in all of that. I discussed that yesterday as well. Many of the humanitarian organizations that are present there have claimed that they have given their GPS coordinates to Israel. And despite that, Israel is bombarding those very humanitarian organizations wherever they are. If this is not deliberate, then what is?
That's the point. They have bombarded the schools, UNRWA, the United Nations schools, the United Nations hospitals. They have bombarded the food, store places. they don't want us to live. Because they have seen that the Palestinians again claiming for their land, again they want their land to be free, again they are not accepting the desecration of Al-Aqsa Mosque, they are taking it back. So they say, why should we let the Palestinians live then? This is their concept. They want to kill Palestinians. There's nothing more. Now what should we do? What should we do? We have Muslim Ummah, we have Muslim countries, we have Arab countries. What should we do?
And we have countries that are sympathetic towards it. Look at South Africa. It has gone to the International Criminal. I mean, it has gone there. It has registered a complaint for war crimes against Israel. And we need to have more of such countries that go there and register their complaints.
Why we have only people who condemn? Why we have people who register? Why don't we have people who can give us arms? Why Palestinians always will keep this without armless? Why US are giving arms to Israel, missiles, very technical, newly made missiles, and nobody's giving nothing to Palestinians. Why is that? This equation has to be changed. Then those Israel will stop. Otherwise, they will never stop.
All right. What's your point of view, Dr. Khurram Abbas, as far as the current situation is concerned? And I'd like to kind of deviate a little bit and move towards a diplomatic angle to all of this. Foreign Minister of Spain, Jose Manuel Alvarez, says Spain is in favor of recognizing the Palestinian state in the very short term. We'll be, of course, talking to Dr. Khurram, but we have to go to a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and we're continuing with our segment on the Palestinian conflict, genocide that has been going on in Gaza since the last 48 days. And we were talking to Dr. Khurram Abbas, so of course we'll continue our discussion. Dr. Saab, if you're still with us, I'd like to understand the diplomatic efforts that are being made currently as far as the visit of the Spanish and the Belgian foreign minister to Israel and to Palestine. Then Iran's foreign minister also is on a regional tour meeting officials in Lebanon and Qatar. The new British Foreign Secretary David Cameron is also expected to visit Israel and the occupied Palestinian territories today. All these movements that are occurring, will they reap some kind of a positive effect?
Yes. So basically, I was saying that there are two sides. One side is Israel and its allies, and they have a clear certainty, the clarity on their side that they are basically pushing Palestinians to the end. So the president of the US, then Prime Minister of UK, and now there are so many other allies of the Israel have visited Israel. And on the other side, you see there are, some resolutions have been passed at the OIC and some General Assembly and some other diplomatic forums. But one thing is very clear. There is no clarity and no country wants to basically go outrightly against Israel like with concrete some kind of support for the Hamas or maybe for the Palestinians overall. I totally agree with my fellow panelists that it is not about just passing resolutions, but also supporting the Palestinians with arms, with ammunition, also with providing them medical supplies and also some food and oil. I'll give you an example. Iraq and Turkey are basically very much vocal against Israeli aggression against the Palestinians. But at the same time, last week I was in Iraq and I heard that, from Mosul, Kirkuk and Erbil, the oil supplies to Turkey and then from Turkey to Haifa, Israel, are basically still going on, despite the fact that, so basically the countries are trying to deal Israel or Palestine, on bilateral level. Then on the other side is Abraham Accords. The UAE and Bahrain did not expel the Israeli ambassadors. So I still believe that no concrete action have been taken by the Muslim countries, and they should do some kind of, they should push beyond the diplomatic efforts, and they should, extend their support for Palestinians, actively.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Khurram Abbas, to have joined us, Director ISSI, Dr. Khurram Abbas, joining us online. Bakir, last question concerns the US policy. Do you feel this deal, whenever it is put into place, or the truce begins between Israel and Hamas, does it mean something for the US policy? On the one hand, you yourself have highlighted different things, that in statements there is a need, as far as the US side is concerned, to find an end to the conflict, but at the same time there are things that are happening parallel that are contrary to what the statements are saying. At the same time, there are people, there are huge protests that are happening, but there are people who are being sacked from their jobs, whether they be even belonging to the movie industry. We've heard of Susan Sarandon, who has been taken off her agents, and others people who have been taken out of films because they have openly talked about this conflict from a neutral point of view, from a humane point of view. What's going to be the US policy now in the coming days as far as this conflict is concerned, during the truce, post the truce? Your take?
I think we don't have any trust in the US policies. I think that the United States have only one policy, that kill Palestinians, kill as much as you can Palestinians. You have open check for this. Anybody opposes, kill anybody opposes. Any country opposes, fire and bombard any country opposes. Okay, that's the only policy they have.
Okay.
So unfortunately, we should formulate a policy that can rebel, that can stand against the US policy, which is actually have no mercy for the Palestinians, no mercy for the Arabs, no mercy for the Muslims.
All right. Thank you very much, Bakir, to have joined us. Bakir Younas, Arab journalist, joining us and of course giving us his point of view as far as this conflict, this genocide that has been going on since the 7th of October is concerned. And of course 48 days have passed and we are still waiting for that truce to happen. But even when that truce happens and after 4 days, what is going to happen is the big question mark that is on everybody's ears and eyes and minds and hearts. And this is what we want to see happen in the positive. I mean, something that might be in the form of a two-state solution, or something that might be as a form of a long-term ceasefire during which concrete negotiations are held. I'd like to just end by giving Pakistan's point of view. The Foreign Office spokesperson has said that we impatiently await the truce that is expected to come into effect in Gaza, which presents an opportunity to establish a humanitarian corridor, facilitate the delivery of food, water, fuel and other humanitarian aid to the besieged people of Gaza. This is what we want, this is what a lot of other countries want, but this is what needs to happen as well on the leadership level. Let's come to our second segment, and that concerns another incident of Indian terrorism that has been exposed now from the United States of America. Another American, American and Canadian national who has apparently been the target. He has survived, he's still alive, not like the previous one in Canada, but the fact remains that this poses a strong question mark as to what Indian intentions are and whether the West is going to now, this time, exert the necessary pressure on India to revert its actions. More in the following report.
The United States authorities have foiled a plot to kill Sikh separatist leader Gurpatwant Singh Pannu in America and issued a warning to India over concerns that the extremist Indian government led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi is involved in plotting to carry out an assassination on US soil. The White House said the US is treating the plot with utmost seriousness and has raised the issue with the Indian government at the senior-most levels. US authorities raised concerns with New Delhi that the Indian government may have had knowledge of the plot. The White House warning to India comes hot on the heels of similar protest by Canada over the murder of pro-Khalistan Sikh leader Hardeep Singh Nijjar outside Gurdwara in British Columbia. Speaking to reporters after a G20 virtual summit hosted by India's Narendra Modi, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said he re-emphasized the need for rule of law and discussion of matters of mutual concern amongst G20 members. Interestingly, President Joe Biden skipped the meeting.
We have been working closely with our allies, including the Americans, since the middle of the summer. Obviously, we continue to engage with India in hopefully constructive ways, and we hope that India will continue to take these real concerns seriously.
Spokesman for the Indian Ministry of External Affairs, Arindam Bagchi, says New Delhi is examining the US inputs on the plot to kill Pannu. India accused Pannu of threatening to blow up Air India flights on November 19, but Pannu denied the charges and said he made no such threats. This is Ali Andaz reporting for PTV World.
Now, to discuss that and of course all the different angles that are concerned with the increased terrorism attempts by India, now not only that it has been doing within its country against people in illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, against the Muslims within India, but in Pakistan we have one of the spies that is still with us, and now it has extended its terrorism outlook, let's put it that way, to Canada and now the United States of America. Syed Muhammad Ali, senior Foreign Affairs expert, joins us in the studio. Ali, thank you very much to have joined us. Ali, let's talk about this US conspiracy to thwart, this assassination of this Sikh who is an American and a Canadian and national as well. And this is something that the US knew since some time. This has only been unearthed because of the Financial Times report. What does that point to as far as Indian intentions are concerned? And the second part of my question is, will the West react this time?
Sure, definitely. And it's not just to share with you a Financial Times London story, but it has been prominently covered and reported by Washington Post and Bloomberg as well. So it means that it proves actually that it's not an isolated thing, and it has been credibly shared with international media, very responsible, influential international media. Secondly, I completely agree with you. There are three aspects. Let's discuss the three key aspects. The first one is that this proves that Pakistan's narrative on India and Pakistan's diplomatic efforts aimed at exposing the Indian attempt to use targeted killing, assassination and state-sponsored terrorism stands vindicated. And it is also an evidence that it is not something which is Pakistan or Kashmir centric. It is now the Indian policy of target assassination, target killing of its political opponents and human rights activists has gone global. And the third aspect is the most interesting, Omar, because this news has been reported today. But let me share with you through this forum that I said this in June, that it is the US intelligence which informed Canadian government that it is India which was involved in the killing of a Canadian citizen.
Hardeep Singh Nijjar.
And it was also in June that this effort happened, this event happened. You remember when Mr. Najjar was assassinated by RAW in Canada. And in June, Prime Minister Modi visited the US. And this story reports and confirms that the US confronted Prime Minister Modi with these evidences during his visit way back in June. Secondly, very interesting aspect is that on the sidelines of the G20 summit in September, President Biden raised it at the highest level with Prime Minister Modi in New Delhi. On the same occasion, on the same venue, on the same day when Prime Minister of Canada raised it, the assassination of the Canadian citizen with Prime Minister Modi. So the surfacing of this news only proves that the US and the I5 alliance knew about it throughout. They have been consulting and sharing these evidences, and it's only now that they have gone public with it.
But they have gone public with it after a couple of months. But when you look at the Indian side, when you look at the Indian media, and I went through some of them, it says India is examining the US inputs of foiled plot to kill a quote unquote a terrorist, and they are rephrasing the whole narrative to suit their own demands. But will they be, finally apprehended or not at the end of the day? Will the Indian intelligence agency be apprehended? Will the necessary allegations be put forward in a more precise, concise and formal manner?
Absolutely. Two very important aspects of your question. First, what is the Indian strategy? The Indian strategy is typical of trying to use fake propaganda and a false narrative to try to present its own state-sponsored terrorism against freedom struggles, against independence struggles, by trying to dub them as terrorism. That is the same towards Kashmir. Kashmir is a UN-recognized freedom struggle. India has attempted throughout history to present it internationally through fake news, disinformation and fake propaganda as terrorism. That is the second aspect. Now coming to the response aspect, what is the international community and particularly US doing, have done or can do? I think the US response is perhaps the most well considered, diverse and mature. it is already acted on 4 fronts. First off, on the legal front, a case on behalf of the US government has already been filed through state prosecutor on this offense, the attempt to murder a US citizen of Sikh religious origin. So that is the legal recourse, which also proves that the US government has evidences. That is why they have gone and taken the legal recourse to punish the person or the institution or the individual responsible. The second is the intelligence measure, which is very important. This information has been shared throughout I5 intelligence network. It has been shared with Canada, it has been shared with Britain, with Australia and New Zealand.
Just like it was when in Mr. Nij's case.
Exactly. So I see a significant downgrading of intelligence cooperation with India by this whole I5 alliance. The third measure is diplomatic, and as I earlier pointed out, this proves that when President Biden himself raised it on the sideline of G20 summit, indicates that not only they are taking it very seriously at the highest level, they have all the evidences of it. That is the diplomatic level. And the story, as Financial Times and Washington Post story proves, that not only they have evidences, they have warned India that they are crossing the line. So that is the third level. The fourth level is the future recourse, and I expect, based on this assessment and their demand by both Canada and US from India to support the legal investigation, but they have not received Indian support, which also proves that this is a deliberate attempt to hide the reality and sort of prevent international attention from coming to the reality of Indian state policy of using state-sponsored terrorism, target killing and assassination by sending their intelligence agents abroad to assassinate their political opponents. So I think why this has happened, you could possibly consider asking this question, that why now? And it proves that after the US and Canadian expectation and demand in good faith from India that they should cooperate.
That they have not relented to.
They have not relented, they have not cooperated in the proceedings and investigation, has convinced them that legal recourse is the best way, and they should go public with it, and they should perhaps in future also review the nature of their relations with India based on these realities and very irresponsible and dangerous Indian strategic behavior.
Now, Joe Biden has come under harsh criticism from the human rights organizations for his relationship, for the US relationship with India in the past, in the present as well. Now that this issue has happened, this has again resurfaced because we all know what India is doing, whether it be in illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, whether it be in other parts of India as well, the way they're suppressing basic human rights. Do you feel this will kind of push the Biden government to also move towards some kind of concrete action as far as the human rights abuses in India is concerned?
I think human rights is a very, important subject. And in the wake of the coming US elections.
And Indian elections.
Absolutely. I think the Biden administration expects, has a lot of expectations from its voters. And let me, from the US domestic political context, explain, because the Democrats typically heavily, not just ideologically, but in terms of constituency politics, rely heavily on the vote bank of the colored minorities, of the non-white Caucasian vote bank, those who are living on the both coasts, and those overseas immigrants which enjoy a liberal environment in the US. So Democrats have typically relied on their votes. So if the Biden administration neglects the expectations of the colored minorities, of the non-white Caucasian voters, which includes Palestinians, which includes Kashmiris, which includes the Muslims, I think it could be a costly approach for the Biden administration at a time when the Republicans are becoming increasingly critical of the Biden administration, and you see the protest marches and all the large rallies, and you have noticed that Mr. Biden has also nuanced his stance on Palestine somewhat in order to respect and acknowledge
and cater to
that audience as well. So that is the political cost which I do not think any Democrat potential presidential candidate can afford to overlook or ignore.
Can pressure tactics be exerted on India? Can the Asia-Pacific strategy as far as the US is concerned be changed vis-a-vis India, looking at the general aspects on the way India has been moving forward on terrorism in the West?
A very important question. I think there are three trends which indicate that the US is not putting all its eggs in the Indian basket when it comes to the Indo-Pacific strategy. First off, if you look at the ground reality, the US force posture is sort of recalibrated. You see a greater deployment of US naval power in South Korea. A new carrier battle group has arrived only yesterday led by USS Carl Vinson in South Korea. And think there is greater cooperation in terms of defense with Palestine, Philippines, with Indonesia, there is talk of building US bases in Australia, and there is also a reconsideration of how India is committed to the Indo-Pacific strategy, not just in the context of this very irresponsible and dangerous act of an attempted murder of a political opponent in the US, but also because it took a neutral stance on the Ukraine war, despite being a strategic partner of the US. So I think India is falling short of the US expectations regarding the containment of China.
So we might be seeing some changes as far as US policy vis-a-vis India is concerned in the coming weeks or in the coming months. I really hope that happens. I really hope that the US finally, tells the world of the reality that India is attempting and India stands for. India is no longer the shining India, nor is it a pluralistic country, nor is it the largest democracy in the world, and that needs to be highlighted.
And one comment, I think it is a growing responsibility of international peace and security that India poses a grave threat to international peace and security in so many domains which international community and powers cannot afford to ignore.
And as you said, the Pakistan stance on all of this stands vindicated with all the documentation that Pakistan has been giving to these important countries and the United Nations as well. Thank you very much, Syed Muhammad Ali, to have joined us and to have come to us in the studios as well. Your opinion always matters. Let's come to our last two stories. The first concerns 2 soldiers amongst 8 who've lost their lives in attacks in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. There have been a string of blasts in 3 districts, North, South Waziristan as well as Bajod. On Wednesday, the security person Lance Naik Hassan Badshah, 33, and Lance Naik Sajid Hussain, 30 years of age, embraced martyrdom when an IED went off. Another explosion in South Waziristan claimed the lives of 3 persons, including a tribal elder and his son, while 3 others, including the father of a local JUIF leader, lost their lives as well. After the ISSI blast, of course, in South Waziristan, tribal elder Aslam Noor, his 8-year-old son Hilal Khan, and another man identified as Sawab Khan was also slain in the Gundi area. In another blast in the Pashtu area near Khar town of Bajo, 40-year-old Sabz Ali was also killed. But of course, these are the events that we need to highlight. But in front of these events, there are hundreds of incidents that even don't come to the forefront because they are thwarted at the very nip before they even happen. Finally, the government has launched its first IT export strategy report today. That was launched by the caretaker Minister for Information Technology and Telecommunication, Dr. Omar, who says the government is launching its first IT export strategy report. On social media, of course, he expressed the hope that due to the initiative, the country's exports will be reaching $10 billion during the next 3 years. The strategy has been devised by Pakistan Software Export Board in collaboration with an international firm. The IT sector is an extremely booming sector, and when it comes to Pakistan, we can do wonders with this sector. So let's see what happens with this strategy as well, and this report how it further accentuates and accelerates and strengthens our IT sector. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow when new story segments that pertain to us. You and Pakistan stay safe. Allah Hafiz.